Welcome everybody, I'm Lizzie Brooks and this is Where Muscle Meets Mindful. So thanks for stopping by. Today is stop, drop, and yoga. So that's what we're gonna do. And what I mean by that is we're gonna get right into it and we're gonna stay drop a little closer to the floor. So not everything is going to be completely right on the floor, but we're not gonna do a ton of standing postures. So this is a little more grounding, but also a little more challenging, a little more intense, so you have an opportunity to take things up a level or down a level, depending on what you need. So please listen to that. All right, let's go to a downward dog. Hands are roughly wider than the shoulders. Feet are the distance apart that feels best to you. Mine's wider than hips distance apart. Deep breath in, big sigh out. Good. Inhale, plank. Exhale, hover the knees over the mat, not collapsing the spine, but lifting the low belly in and up. Inhale. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, plank. Exhale, hover one knee. Okay, so just one knee. Lift your organs and your low belly in and up. Come back to full plank. Hover the other knee, so the other knee bends. Really draw those organs in and up, and then take it to plank. Both knees hover, round that low back. Full plank, exhale to downward facing dog. Pedal it out. Open the back of the legs, lengthen through the spine, root through the palms. From here, come into plank, rock the heels forward, and lower chaturanga, and then all the way to the floor. Tops of the feet root, feet are the distance apart that feels best for your spine. Hands drawing back towards the ribs, elbows drawing in and back, shoulder blades on the back. Don't jut the chin, gaze is down. Then lift the upper body up. Last thing that lifts would be the gaze. Inhale to cobra. Exhale, come on down. Do that 2 more times, working that posterior chain. Inhale, cobra, or even itty bitty baby cobra. Exhale, unfurling down. Last one, inhale, roll up, maybe a little higher. And exhale, come down. Keep the elbows where they are. Tuck the toes. You could either keep your knees down and press to all fours, or lift the knees up, walk the feet closer in, press into the ground with what's touching, lift your organs towards the spine, and press to plank. Inhale in your plank. Exhale to your downward facing dog. Open up the back of the legs. Widen your feet, shift your hips over to one side, breathe here, and root the opposite palm to where you're reaching your hips. So if I'm reaching my hips to the right, I root my left palm a lot. Inhale, center. If I'm reaching my hips to the left, I root my right palm a whole bunch. Inhale, center. Turn your heels in and your toes out. Walk your hands back towards the back of your mat, and then bend your knees for Malasana, squat pose. So again, knees and toes are roughly the same direction. This is a hinge joint and not a ball and socket joint, so you want to really make sure that you have a nice, safe hinge and you're not drawing too far in or out. So root the outer feet if you can. Grow up out of the spine. Take a full inhale. Sigh that out. Let those hips open. One more time. Inhale. And let it go. All right, fingertips down, hips up, toes forward. A little swish and sway side to side. So if you want to add your blocks under your hands or books or anything like that, any height, add that on. Widen your stance now to the outer edges of your mat. So your outer edge of your foot on each side is going to be parallel to the long edge of your mat. Now bend your knees, reach your hips back. I don't want the hips lower than the knees like in Malasana, but higher or the same height as the knees. Option to stay right here and then draw the inner thighs towards the midline. You're going to really feel that. If you want a little bit more, reach your arms forward. This is going to go into that back body that we just worked in Cobra. Breathing here, bear pose. And then play with shifting your weight more forward or a little further back and see what works in the hips. Inhale, exhale, fold. I was pretending that that wasn't really hard. It was really hard. And then keep your feet this wide. Bring your hands up towards your waist. Draw the hands onto them, thumbs towards the spine. Roll the elbows back, bend the knees. Inhale, come all the way up to standing. And then shake that all out. And then circle your hips around a little bit here. Iron out any kinks, anywhere where you feel that you just need a little more like the Tin Man, you need a little more oil in those joints. And then shake it on out. Come all the way to the back of your mat with your feet exactly as wide as they were. Optional balance. This is the only time we'll come to full standing. Lift the heels. Wake up the inner thighs. If you want to reach your arms up or bring your hands to your heart, do that. So when you find yourself standing tall, find your alignment, crown of the head, and then the way that you are stacking your shoulders over your wrists. These are your wrists, your hips over your feet. Find that. Lower the heels down, sweep the arms up. Bend the knees any amount, exhale, fold. Keep the feet this wide. Come into your plank pose with the feet this wide. So you're gonna have to stabilize a little bit differently because the feet are this wide. All right, now root the palms, especially the fingertips and the first finger ball joint and the thumb ball joint. Now you're gonna take your left foot and just bring it over to touch your right ball joint. Then bring that back open just as wide and do it with the other leg. Tap. Go wide, bring it together. Go wide, bring it together. One more time each side, bringing it together, open wide, bringing together. Go wide, and then from here, make sure your knees are pointing straight towards the front of your mat. Hover the knees down. Press your hips back. It's like you're doing a floating child's pose. Hips draw back. Breathe here, working the quads. 3, 2, 1. Lower the knees, take the feet together, go for a wide-kneed child's pose. If that wide knee position doesn't work for you, skip it and let the knees come together. Breathing in the child's pose. And then we'll come to all fours. So you might want to use a blanket here or a towel. Anything that's padding, that's kind of dense padding. You don't want something like a pillow because that will be much harder to balance on. And then come to your all fours position. Draw the same strength that you had when you pressed up from the floor into your plank pose. Draw those organs towards your spine. And then from here, bend your knees. You might have to scoot them back a little bit. Bend your knees and then bend them more. Spread your toes and take your heels towards your sitting bones. So we're working the back of the leg, working those hamstrings. So in yoga, sometimes it's like we just think we're supposed to open those hamstrings all the time, but guess what? They're muscles. They have to get strengthened too. So draw that in, active, active, active. And then from here, feel free to either walk the hands more forward or walk the knees a little more back, and then go into a baby press and press back up. Hug the heels closer in, baby press, and back up. And you can go into a 1/2 inch press to work these upper arms, or you can go as low as you want and back up, okay? So stay with your breath. I'm not gonna count it. I want you to do it at the pace that works for you, working the back body as well as the upper body and the whole trunk. Breathing. And then from here, hug the heels in, draw the hips any amount down within reason. If that doesn't feel good, then don't do this. You might want to widen your knees. You can even take the toes to touch. Roll your shoulder blades onto your back. Lift the shoulders like an upward facing dog and gaze forward. Breathing, breathing, stretching through the front of the hips, the belly, and maybe take the toes a little closer. And then I'm not looking, but I'm sure your toes are touching the back of your head, just like mine are. Inhale, exhale, slowly press it back into that wide-kneed child's pose or knees together child's pose. Rising up to all fours and then transitioning to high kneeling. Roll the wrists out. Stay as you are. I'm going to go ahead and turn towards you. Reach the arms out and all the way up. Exhale, lower one hand. I'm going to lower my right hand to my waist. Wake up the inner thighs. If you want to put a block there, you can. And then take a lateral. So there's a lot of core work and stabilizing here with this. You don't have to go too far. Breathing. Inhale, reach. And then exhale, other side. Get your length and then take it to this side. Working through those obliques and opening one side of the spine while the other side is condensed. Inhale, reach up, both arms up. Exhale, interlace your fingers round. Draw the organs towards the spine, open that back body. This is also going to work the glutes. There's a balance here. You can also have your toes tucked. And inhale, come all the way up, deep breath in, open the lungs. Exhale, float the arms down, roll the shoulders back and down a few times, and we'll come back to all fours here. Stabilizing through the core, and then from here, lift up into plank pose. Now, to make this much harder, the ball joints of the feet will touch. To make this easier, you'll go wider with the feet. Why? Because it's easier to balance. It's like you have a kickstand versus being almost on one point. Okay, so choose where you want to be, and you have an option to take your left hand onto your heart. Instead of splaying to the side, roll the rib cage down. Lower that hand, and option for the other side. Find your breath. And lower that hand. Then take the feet closer together. Pick one knee to bend it, and press the foot like you're pressing the foot onto the ceiling above you. Now, what tends to happen here is we kind of do something like this because we're trying to really get to the ceiling. But see if you can stay in plank, not collapsed, but supported, and press up until you really start to feel those glutes firing. Breathing here. And then lower that leg, transitioning to the other side. Bend, press. Good. Make sure you're not taking the work into the neck. There's a lot going on here. So let the glutes work, the upper body. We're doing a lot of upper body today. And straighten and lower down to the knees. Press back, full child's pose, whichever one you want. Let's roll those wrist joints out. Also, feel free to soften through the neck. And we'll come to all fours and take the fingertips pointing towards the knees. Now, if this is too much, you can come sideways here or skip it all together. If this isn't enough, you can tuck your toes and shift your hips back to gain a little more access to the underside of the forearms. And then just taking that opportunity to connect with what's ever touching the ground. So again, our thoughts, our brain is intimately connected with our fingertips, so use this as a grounding moment. And then rolling off of that, whoo, and shake it out. Let's come back down onto the belly. I like to use my blanket to support my rib cage and my pelvis at the same height, so feel free to do that. And if you want to come through a chaturanga to come down, you can. If your upper body's had enough, just come down however you want to come down. We'll all be here. And then from here, Sphinx pose, elbows underneath the shoulders roughly. They can go forward of the shoulders if this is too much of a back bend. Tops of the feet are down. From here, pull back with the hands and the elbows, draw the sternum any amount forward, shoulder blades onto the back, opening here. Good. Now maybe take the feet a little closer together for the core work. Inhale, exhale, press into the hands and the forearms, press into the knees, lift the pelvis, tuck the tailbone under, tuck the head under a bit. Inhale, really slowly unfurl back into your Sphinx pose. This is one of my favorite things to do in my own practice right now. Inhale here. Exhale, press into the knees, round the spine. I like it because it gets into musculature that is hard to get into through the core and through the trunk. Inhale, unfurl. It's really easy to work surface core and upper core, but not the deep core lines. Inhale here. And exhale one more time. We'll go in for a hold round. This also works the shoulders. And come all the way slowly back into Sphinx pose. And exhale, come down for a rest. I'm not gonna lay all the way down because it'll crush my microphone and you'll be able to hear that. So rest on down, find your lungs. Use this as an opportunity to release whatever you need to. And then from here, we're gonna make an X shape. So our hands will go a little wide and our feet will go a little wide. Don't go way out to the sides, okay? And then we're gonna lift all that up a little bit. So slide your hands back a little bit. And then using some alternating reaches, keep your gaze forward, lift the right hand and the left leg. So you're not going for way up here, but you're going more length. Breathing here, really good for the back body and to do these asymmetrical reaches. We don't do these very often. Inhale, exhale, lower that down. Restabilize, and then as you're ready, left hand, right leg, spread your right set of toes out. And lower. One more time each side, reaching, working the entire core because the core isn't just the surface at the front of our bodies. And exhale down. Last one, left hand, right leg. And exhale down. Maybe lift everything. This is a big one. If arms forward is too much, reach back, or any other option you like to do. If you want to open the chest a lot here and shoulders, you might interlace. You could take the elbows towards the side body, whatever works. Make sure you're not taking the work into the neck. 3, 2, 1, exhale, come down for your complete rest. Maybe move the hips a little side to side. Release the glutes and the back body. Now visualize the transition that you want to take to child's pose or downward dog. It's your choice. Once you have that in mind, go ahead and take your healthy transition. I'm going to use, again, I was kind of lazy today, so I'm going to use that plank transition, tucking my toes, walking them in. Hands alongside of the chest, lifting the knees, lifting the organs, pressing to plank, and then moving that back to downward dog, pedaling it out. Breathing here. And then lifting the right leg, opening the right hip on top of the left if that feels okay, and maybe bending that top knee. So you can stay exactly here. Or if you know that wild thing or flipping that dog, whatever you like to call it, feel free to find the foot coming down. You can either take it into almost this side plank variation, or you can continue around with the other foot and lift up here, opening any amount. That's why we were prepping those back bends for maybe this one. And then reaching the top, reaching the right arm up, extending the lower leg, okay, so I'm making an L shape here, and then rolling over the toes to come back into a straight right leg reach, and lower the foot down, pedal it out. Lower the knees to all fours, hug into the midline for a moment, just restabilizing, and then downward facing dog. Root the palms, left leg reaches. Stay here or stack the hips, maybe bend the knee. And then from here, you might come into that. You can see this probably a little better from this angle. I should have gone this way first for you. Come into that modified side plank and stay here. The back foot is behind, or the left leg is behind the right leg, or maybe turning the toes to face the same direction and opening here. This can be tricky on that lower shoulder, so if that doesn't feel right, skip it. And then reach the left arm up. Take your lower leg, your right leg, back into that side plank. Stabilize at the low core, back into the extended left leg, and then lower that foot down. Root the palms, soften the neck. Find your breathing. Lower down onto the knees. And then from here, we're going to face, so you'll face me, and I'll face you. You look gorgeous. And then we're gonna come onto our side. So I really do recommend that if you feel real tight or tender or even kind of bony on your outer hip, that you come onto some sort of blanketing here. So notice that I have my forearm off of the blanket. And then from here, engage the legs. So notice there's a difference between one hip coming forward and one hip going back. I see one hip going back much more than forward, but the tendency can be to do either one. So let's try to stack those up. Take that top arm, tent the fingers onto the floor, and breathe here. Now, lifting the top leg, keep the toes facing forward. So we're really going for the outer upper leg here, really into some work. We don't take this kind of movement very often. Normally when we come to the side, we're externally rotated, and when we reach up, okay, we're gonna keep this more internally rotated. And then from here, bend the top leg. Any amount, draw that knee towards you. So instead of, I was trying to show you too early, instead of dropping the ankle down, okay, try to keep the ankle the same height as the knee. You'll start to probably feel the obliques really working. And then if you want more, draw it a little further in and maybe straighten the top foot. So we want to keep our hips really strong and healthy as we age, or really at any age, and this is one way to do it. Bend the knee and then press back any amount into that foot. Open the front of the hip. Breathing here. 3, 2, 1. And then bend that in again. Grab that foot with your hand and place it in front of you. So I'm going to scoot back a little bit, and I'm going to move my blanketing out of the way so I have a better connection to my mat here. So from here, you're going to bend the top knee, and this might be your pose. This might be getting into that hip. You might be feeling like you're opening the side body. That's perfectly great to stay exactly there, okay? If you want to add a little more in, you're going to take your lower leg and reach it forward. And I'm going to move back a little bit more and reach it forward. Then maybe reach in front of your shin and see if you can find your toes, okay? So this is already like a big pretzel shape, and you might be done. If you can, there's a major weight distribution and a transfer of weight forward in order to lift this up, okay? So if I don't transfer my weight forward, I can't get anything off the ground. And then from here, if you want to change it, you can reach long with that lower leg and up with the upper arm, and then let's come all the way down. Ooh, and bend both knees and lay down onto the lower arm and rest. I surprised you with that one, didn't I? That one came out of nowhere. Stop, drop, and go crazy. All right, let's go ahead and come all the way up. Shake out the wrists, the shoulders, and we're gonna lay on the opposite side. So let's go ahead and set that up. And we'll go into our stacking here. Again, paying attention to hip over hip. Fingertips tenting, so you're actually stabilizing here with that upper arm. And then engage at the ankles and begin to lift with internal rotation. So not here, here, breathing. Ooh, this hip is a lot more sore. Did that happen to you? And then from here, bend the knee. Bring the knee forward. So I had to get my arm sort of out of the way for my knee to come forward. Instead of dropping the ankle, I'm going to attempt to keep it the same height. And this might be exactly where I need to stay, or maybe I'll extend that leg. Attempting to breathe, and then bring that back, bend the knee, and press and open, opening through the front of the hip. Couple of breaths here. And then bend it in again. This time grab the foot, place it down. Move whatever blanketing you have here. And just take a moment in this shape so you can kind of play around with where that hip is, where the torso is. Get a little more comfortable here and maybe decide to stay here. Possibly you'll reach the lower leg forward, so it comes diagonally forward and it's very active here. So I'm going to scoot back so I can try to remain in the frame. And then from here, I might reach in front with my top arm and see if I can find my big toe. And I didn't say this on the other side, but if you have a strap and you'd like to use a strap or even a robe tie, then feel free to do that. Grasp, maybe stay here, or maybe transfer your weight forward to see if you can lift the hips. And then if that works, maybe you're gonna open. And you can even come back down and move this front arm back to come fully here if you know you're not gonna grab those toes. And then slowly, let's come on down, bend the knees, and lay down. And go nighty-night. And then we're gonna lay on our backs. So you don't actually need the blanket for this. I'm gonna remove it because we're gonna do some things where we want the connection of feet on a non-slippery surface. So coming down onto the back and hugging the knees in when you get there. Rock a little side to side. Make sure that any clutter in the jaw, in the neck, or in the thinking mind is able to release down a little bit. I always tell my students, it's often just a choice. Like you're just making a choice to put some other thought in your head and to focus on that. It's like when you have a terrible song in your head and then you have to think of another song to get that terrible song out of your head. Soles of the feet down on the floor. Arms are reaching, lift your heart up, scoot your shoulder blades underneath. So create an upper thoracic back bend. Keep the neck not tense and press into the floor and lift the pelvis any amount. From here, you might begin to scoot your shoulder blades more underneath you to the point where you can interlace your fingers. If that doesn't feel right, you can cactus your arms or just keep them here. Breathing. We're back in that posterior chain, using the hamstrings differently than before. So provide a little more root and press by really taking your thinking mind to your feet and how they're engaging against the earth. Then wake up your inner thighs a little bit here and breathe. You can stay here or go to restorative and put something like a bolster or a block or a pillow under your sacrum, or you can go for a little bit more and walk your left foot in. I'm going to take my arms out of interlacing and go here. Walk my left foot a little more into the midline. Draw the right knee in. This is similar to what we did a moment ago, really drawing in, and then extend any amount up. Spreading the toes, pressing into the floor, and gently lifting the hips. This is a big one, really, really good for hip strength. And exhale, lower that foot. Walk the right foot more into the midline. Bend the left knee in, and this might be exactly where you stay. Great. And then maybe extend the leg. I just kind of like kick that up. Don't do what I just did. Oh, by no means, don't do what the teacher did. Breathing here, pressing into your roots, and exhaling, lowering down. Take your feet about hips distance or a little wider. Lift both heels. Walk the feet a little closer in. Lift the pelvis a little higher. So we're back into a heel lift. If that bothers you at all, skip it. Wake up the inner thighs and draw them a little more towards one another. And then actively tuck the tailbone to put this work differently into the glutes. That's also going to elongate the lumbar a little bit. Inhale and exhale slowly, one vertebra at a time, come all the way down. We're going to want to stretch after that, so extend your legs, reach your arms above you, press through your heels and reach through your arms. Deep breath in and sigh it out. All right, and then from here, soles of the feet back to the floor. Lift both legs up and then press through the heels and spread the ball joint, spread the toes out. Take the arms alongside of the body, wake up towards the midline, and any amount, slowly extend the right leg in front of you. Now it might be here, here. It might be hovering over your mat. But what I'm going to ask you to do is to keep the upper leg more active than you might normally. So you don't want to just let it kind of hang out. Actively reach both legs away from each other to wake up the core and the hips a little bit more. And then slowly, slowly take it all the way back up. And then other leg gets to lead as you take it to whatever point of hover feels best, and then actively reach the legs away from each other. This is great core and hip work. Keep breathing. Try to keep that low back closer to the floor. And slowly draw back up. I'm going to take my hands underneath me, and I'm going to put a little bit of support for my sacrum. Ooh, my microphone battery pack is not feeling good in my arm. There we go. And then any amount, and I might be here, any amount you might knees bent hover or legs straight hover. Keep tucking the tail. I really only prefer this one when you have hands under the sacrum to help you tilt your tail and elongate the lumbar. Breathing here. And then slowly coming back up. Release the hands and just start to cross one ankle in front of the other. I'm spreading the toes out. And then maybe I'm going to get bigger with these and start to open into some circling here. Crossing the midline, working those hips. I can also really feel my quads working, low belly. Reaching one leg around and then the other. And then whichever leg you have on top, you're going to wrap that all the way around and come into your Gomukhasana legs, where it's just like you're sitting in a chair and you've crossed. And then interlace your hands in front of the back knee, or just kind of hold on to wherever you want to hold on, maybe the outer ankles. If you want to go a little bit deeper, you might be taking the ankles away from each other and then a little down towards the floor to get into the outer hips a little bit more, reaching your tailbone towards the back edge of your mat. Giving some love and some breath to those hips, because we worked those. The reason we're doing this one in particular is because of that that leg lift we did and that leg reach earlier. Ooh, that was a doozy. And then unwind both knees in. And let's just go for the cross on the other side. You might just hug that in, whatever you can reach. Maybe you're going to reach the outer feet. Take the shins more parallel to the floor rather than up. Feet a little closer in towards the shoulders. Elongate the spine. Breathing here. If it looks like this is easy for me, I'm faking. I'm really feeling this in my hips. All the more reason why we need it. Deep breath in and out. Uncross knees together and just point and stretch through the ankles. Roll the toes around a little bit here. Take your favorite twist to the left and then the right. So we're just changing it up. So if you usually go to the right, we're going to go to the left first today. I'm liking this one today. If there's one you like better, go for it. And then you might play within your twist to lift up whichever shoulder blade is more rooted on the floor, to lift it up and scooch it more in the direction of where it is, of that shoulder, and you might get a little more of the torso down. Unwind back to center, and then you'll take your favorite twist to the other side. So I'm going to show you a little bit of what I mean. So if I'm more up here with my rib cage, I'm going to take my right shoulder blade, which is the one that's really touching down to the floor. I'm going to lift it up, scooch it over to the right, and then I can unfurl more of my back body onto the mat. It just makes the twist a little bit more axial, a little bit less of a turn and more of a classic twist. Deep breath here. And exhale, come on back to center. Hug the knees in. If you want one last lift, round in. And then unfurl down. Extend your legs for your Shavasana. arms where you want them. If you want to roll up a blanket or put a bolster underneath your knees, please do that, especially if any of the core work we did got into the low back and made it a little cranky. If that's the case, I would rather you either have bent knees with your low back closer to the floor or something rolled up underneath them. So I'm going to bid you adieu, and but first I'm going to give you my thanks. So I have been loving putting these videos together for you. I've been loving getting all of your responses and comments and you guys asking for certain content. I really listen to that, and I really want to give you what you need. So please subscribe to the channel. A lot of folks are watching and not hitting subscribe. It's really easy. You just click it, and it's free, and it means a lot to me. And what else? Yeah, let me know what you want. I'm here for you, and I'm willing and ready to create the content that makes you feel better so that we can all feel good and put good out into the world. Thanks so much for showing up. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Namaste.